Shifting our focus away from Narendra Modi's pitch to India Inc. and the latest developments coming out of the Supreme Court hearing the coal block allocation scam. The Supreme Court has pulled up the centre, saying the screening committee did not follow the guidelines that were set. The centre is believed to have told the apex court that it has now given 3 weeks' time to companies that hold 32 coal blocks to secure mining leases. So that's the latest coming in from the Supreme Court on the Coalgate scam. Remember, the Supreme Court was to review the status report that was filed by the investigating agency, the CBI, to the coal block allocation scam. So just now, the Supreme Court pulling up the centre once again. And the centre too has now told the Supreme Court that it has given some time to the companies that held 32 of those coal blocks to secure mining leases. Remember, the scam has been particularly sensitive for the UPA government, considering for the period in which these coal blocks were allocated were the time when the Prime Minister directly held the portfolio of coal ministry. Let me get more details now from Jaskira Singh Bawa, who's reporting from Supreme Court. Jaskira, just take us through all that has happened over the past half an hour or so.
Well, the central government has informed the Supreme Court about their initiation of process to actually deallocate the coal block allocation licenses. This is the process that the Supreme Court had asked the government how far they stand and where exactly they stand as far as the cancellation of these licenses is concerned. Show cause notices have been issued to 2 companies in this matter. Now, 32 other blocks have been given 3 weeks' time to acquire mining leases, in the absence of which their coal blocks licenses will also be deallocated, or in simpler words, cancelled.
All right, and there have been cancellations earlier as well. So effectively, it means that some of the other companies have now been put on notice.
Well, that's correct. Now, the central government had also implied that there's going to be a huge, not just implied, but expressly said that there's going to be a huge financial loss as a result of some of these cancellations. But the mood of the Supreme Court can also be gauged by the observation today, where they actually hauled up the government for the selection process, saying that the selection process was not correct. The Attorney General was unable to convince the Supreme Court on behalf of the centre on the actual validity that the government felt was there in the selection process. But one has to understand this is, that by questioning the selection process, it doesn't just directly implicate anyone on it or point towards any wrongdoing, but it could also perhaps, theoretically speaking, also point towards incompetence. But what exactly, which direction does it actually fall in, is subject to further deliberation of the Supreme Court.
All right, so the Supreme Court in a sense has not questioned the decision making of the government at any level here, but it is talking about the wrongdoings and perhaps the manner in which these coal blocks have been allocated.
Well, that's correct. The selection process is under question over here in the Supreme Court, not just for the first time, but repeatedly. Today, once again, the central government was hauled up for the selection process. Apart from that, like I mentioned, the government is going ahead with the cancellation of the coal block licenses. In another few weeks' time, we would, in another just a few weeks, the government will once again come back to the Supreme Court to update them on the status of the coal block cancellations.